Okay, everyone, this is Seeking Sister Wife, Season 3, Episode 4, Emotions and Commotion.
Hate this show. Don't want to do the recap.
I know, he never does. He says that about every show, though.
I was kind of excited last week. This week, it's like the Tank and his wives. Clearly, him and his wife just want a maid because they don't want the other wife to work. They just want her around cleaning up things and, I guess, sex. Because, if not, what's all this about?
Yeah, see, he has no opinions whatsoever. So everybody liked my slightly buzzed recap yesterday of Sister Wives, but it is like 9 in the morning, so I am not going to start drinking first thing in the morning.
Stone cold sober.
Stone cold. Okay, so John was putting the toddler down at the beginning of the episode, which means he missed the most shocking part of this whole episode, which is the Merrifields. And I feel like I could sit here and talk for hours alone on how screwed up that situation is. And I said last week...
Which ones are they?
They are in...
Magic Man?
No, he wasn't in this episode. They're the ones in Mexico right now. They're Brazilian.
Oh, the psychopath.
The psychopath who...
And the large wife and the small wife.
Oh, gosh, is that not the worst? So I made a comment in last week's recap about how Danielle got divorced and didn't know it. And what I meant... I was being kind of metaphorical, is that she knows she got divorced, but she doesn't realize
fails to accept it.
Well, doesn't realize that this wasn't like a technical legal thing. Like, she's divorced. He's moving on without her. I think toward the end of the episode, I realized I don't know that I saw him directly speak to her this entire episode. She would say something, and he would turn to Roberta and say something to her, and she would reply, and then he would laugh, and then she would say something, and then he talked. I don't know that I saw him.
Get a clue, hon. You're done.
And then there was the whole thing where she told the wedding people, like, oh, we're in a plural family. We're both his wives. And he had like no facial expression. He just kind of like half smiled, but he wasn't like, yes, both of my wives. And John missed the part where it wakes up in the morning and Danielle is in bed with Garrick and Roberta. And you missed all that.
Thank God.
And they said that Garrick wanted to spend the night with Roberta, but Roberta felt bad about sister, as he calls her, which is just so creepy to me because I know people who refer to people as sister, but it's usually in terms of like a mother talking to their child about their other child. So to have him refer to, and then Roberta called her baby, the little baby, and I'm like, this dynamics is really bizarre, which I didn't think I could say about a show.
And I don't know, maybe she's a pretty girl, but with the braces, it's like, I see a 14-year-old kid.
I know.
And it's gross. Well, it's gross anyway, but it's gross.
It's gross because she looks so young and she looks it's so creepy. So they're all sleeping in the same bed. And then they like cut away to an interview with him where he's practically giddy because he's talking about how when Danielle went to go get his stuff, her and Garrick and Roberta quickly had sex, were intimate. Sorry, I guess I shouldn't use such foul language. And I'm like, well, that sounds like a great 2 minutes for her.
He's a 2-pump jump.
It was like, ugh. And then they're like, off screen, well, does Danielle know? No, she doesn't. And he looks so excited. He has fully moved on from Danielle. I don't even know why they're even pretending he wants to be plural when he clearly is 1,000% out of this relationship with Danielle.
Last week when he said God told him to, I thought he was talking about a deity. Clearly, he just named his penis God, so. Yeah,
it is what it sounds like.
And it is what it is, not what it sounds like.
Well, and then the other thing I caught, okay, so let's see, they all slept in one bed. Roberta, we're intimate real quick. Mexico, they're going to have a Mexico wedding so that her family could come. He says the only person he's bringing is his best friend. And I think Danielle said, I think she was referring to her brother. She said, oh, and so, and he goes, no, not really. I think that's supposed to be her brother. I don't think he even wants Danielle at the wedding. And then like I said, toward the end of the episode, I started thinking, okay, so I guess that's an example when he spoke directly to her. But other than that, if I watched it again because I cared enough to watch it again, I bet you he doesn't say more than a few words and barely makes eye contact. Like, have you ever had a house guest that stayed too long? Are you advertising?
Yeah. Anyway,
you ever had a house guest that stayed too long and you like are trying not to explode on them and avoid confrontation, but you can't even look at them? That's how I feel that he feels with Danielle.
Oh, man.
Okay.
Where they're gone for 45 minutes after they've stayed way too long and then call you about a car problem. It's like, you're out of my house and you're not my problem.
That would be, that is a direct story
gosh.
from when my ex-boyfriend and his new wife wanted to come visit, which is already
weird.
Already should have done, but then they stayed and they stayed and it was a disaster.
And they didn't pay for anything.
They didn't pay for anything.
And they waited for everybody else to pay. Didn't put in their money. And then it's like,
and John was so done.
I was so pissed. And
he
I was like, so
him.
he's like, oh, I didn't want to put on my card. Oh, so your option is just not pay? That's cool. I just fucking walked out and I was like, I paid.
John,
screw this guy.
First of all, we're going to get demonetized for that language. Secondly, we were at a comedy club, and he told the waitress, he's like, well, this is our section, so you need to handle it with them, and got up and left.
Yep.
Anyway, that was the least of it. Anyway, sorry, John we have
fun stuff. We
have set off John's thing. So anyway, moving on to Clark's, which is the one that you were talking about. He keeps talking with all of this,
Clark's,
like, we're going to have a tribal meeting. I'm the king. I'm the judge and jury.
The tank.
We're going to get our tribe together. So he wants Kayla to
be a maid.
He wants her to quit her job to spend time with the family. So it looks to me like he wants her to be financially dependent, because then if she doesn't have a job, she's working for them, then she doesn't have much to say, because there was the whole thing last week about, like, your job is more important than mine, and she goes, well, then, Vanessa goes, well, fine, then you can go work. Well, it sounds like she's already got 2 jobs, so, anyway, and then they fight. I couldn't even follow the fight because there were so many bleeps, but, you know, I don't really blame her, because it sounds like it's a wildly unhealthy thing. I just don't know why she didn't just pack up and leave. And then Vanessa goes out there, talks her down. It looked like at one point a producer was talking to her, you know, probably saying like, hey, you're too upset to drive. You probably shouldn't be driving. Do you want to do an interview? Anything like that. She goes in and she goes, can I have a kiss goodbye, or am I not worthy? And he's like, nah, I think I'm good. Okay, I think that answers your question. So what I think happened is they essentially, they broke up a month before the filming started, which means they probably applied for the show, had this big breakup, and then were selected and were like, okay, well, currently we're living apart, but we're working on it. And so this is them trying to stay on the show, trying to work it out. But if it wasn't for the show, my guess is that she would be so far gone and they would be into something else. That's my guess. Then we get to the Winders, Tammy, Sophie, potentially Kimberly. This is just Sophie's engagement. We didn't even see the guy, which frankly you don't even really miss.
Sorry, which one is this?
This is the religious Mormon polygamist. Tammy keeps having miscarriages. I have nothing to say about that. We had multiple miscarriages.
Awful, and we feel bad.
Yeah, I mean, we could barely watch it because it's so upsetting. So no criticism of her, but at all. But the weird thing is they like all of these shows. Well, we'll criticize her for other things.
Yes.
But that is just 100% heartbreaking. No.
Anyway.
Nothing with that. But they're like sitting there rocking in their rocking chairs, and she's talking about how your body hurts after you give birth because you've been slowly expanding. But I mean, like literally, like your rib cage, all that. And then she goes, "Gosh, it's so wonderful we have sisters. Otherwise, we'd never sister wives. Otherwise, we'd never know this stuff." I'm like, you guys need friends. Like, I don't know why all these sister wives act like the only way they could get. Do you not have real life sisters? Do you not have? All of my friends who had been mothers told me gross, intimate stuff about the birthing process to make sure I was prepared if I asked and was, open to it. They weren't like, my friends at least weren't like accosting me in the, grocery store and telling me stuff. But I mean, people act like the only way you can get this is by having your husband boink another woman and then talk about stuff. And it's like, there's a lot of options out there. Anyway, then Sophie's grandmother was talking about like the best thing about sister wives is that if you got sick of seeing your kid in some outfit, you could put it in someone else's cubby. I was like, it's called a thrift store. You can go to the thrift store and buy new clothes for like 50 cents a dollar, and you can give away stuff. Like the justifications they have for plural wives are so thin. And I guess grandma, yeah, and Sophie's aunt has a lot of thoughts about it. I don't know why I wrote, because I'm talking about thirds. And I like the aunt. The aunt's talking about like, well, what if you do this? What if that? So she married into the family. Her husband is Sophie's mom's brother, Anyway, she said, I've seen a lot of this and there's a lot of issues. I'm like, lady.
No kidding.
I fully agree. And then talking about a third wife and then the Snowdens. So Chrissy's still leaving. I thought she left last episode. She's still leaving this episode.
Still leaving.
And then Taylor's visiting. Taylor's stunning. I mean, I can tell you, the Snowdens have one thing down. All of the girls have been incredibly beautiful. I still stick to my thing that he is some sort of trust fund baby or something because he's got some car. We couldn't quite see what kind of car it was.
It was so quick. I mean, it kind of looked like a Austin Martin, but I can't be shy.
Carbon fiber
mirrors. That tells you all you need to know. It's a frickin' expensive car.
Right, and so we actually rewound twice to see the car, and we just couldn't get a real good look. And we're not that big of car
Maybe
people.
it's a Maserati. I didn't look at Maserati.
But that utility vehicle he has, and I don't mean like an SUV.
To get it to where that's at had to cost a pretty penny too.
Anyway, so they clearly have the money to be courting all these women.
Or at least acting the Californian, which is way over leveraged. I mean,
that's the other thing.
According to Google, they're only worth $1 million.
Yeah, only a mere $1 million.
Only.
Anyway, maybe it's a rental. Taylor's visiting. Rather than pick her up, they sent a car for her because it'd be 2 hours there and 2 hours back. I am not disagreeing with that. Having lived in LA myself, I do not disagree with that statement. But it was kind of funny when she like rolls up in a car. They go out, they all hug. The kids are on her like nothing. Not a criticism of the kids. I mean.
Well, based on what's his name's previous first dates, he wanted to be on her like that too.
Anyway. And I guess we're going to get in and see about this. She's going to go on a date with him. She's going to go on a date with her. So we're going to kind of see how that goes.
They're going to sleep in the bed together like those other freaks?
I don't think they'll do that on camera.
Yeah, well, let's hope not. Ain't nobody want to see that.
I don't know. I think some people might.
I don't want to see that.
They can have their OnlyFans.
I don't even know what that is, but it sounds gross.
Okay. Anyway, we'll see you guys next week. Bye!